Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TechZulu Live from New Media Expo. I'm your host, Amanda Coulong, and now we're going to be talking about social media and law. You don't really think about those as much, and you should. I'm joined right now by Brian Wasson and Gordon Firemark. Brian, Gordon, how are you guys?
Doing great, thanks.
Great, nice to be here.
Well, where does one begin with social media and law? I'm sure there's some pretty big big fires to put out at times, and maybe certain things people just don't think about as it relates to social media and law. Fill me in.
Well, social media covers every industry that there is. I mean, every company, every industry nowadays has a social media presence. So really, there isn't a body of social media law as such. It's what those issues are that already affect these companies, and they're taking that into the digital media space. So that brings with them some unique legal issues that we're here to cover. But in terms of this panel, Gordon and I just spoke on a legal panel here, and this blogging conference, right? We're here primarily talking about bloggers and putting media content out there. So that's how we segued into our half-hour panel. That's how we determined what to talk about at this conference.
Sure. Gordon, what are some rookie mistakes that bloggers make?
Using other people's stuff in their blogs, quoting other blog posts, quoting newspaper articles. There were a lot of lawsuits about that a couple years ago. Using photos that they don't own. I know an awful lot of bloggers who got that letter from Getty Images and had to deal with that copyright infringement threat. So that's probably the biggest mistake.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can quote other people, but how do you do it the right way?
Well, my answer to that is if you want to be treated like a journalist, act like a journalist. And journalists have a set of ethics and guidelines for these kinds of things. And
imagine that.
Quoting small amounts of material, not entire articles or not, entire long passages, is really the answer to that.
A quote is a quote. It's not an entire article.
And it has attribution.
Yes. And what about you, Brian? What rookie mistakes have you seen bloggers make?
Well, the subject matter that I addressed in this panel was consumer protection laws. So a rookie mistake would be to talk about a product, review a product, give it a glowing review, and not reveal the fact that you are getting paid by that company to do it. So there are plenty of examples, and I gave plenty in my speech. Ann Taylor was caught giving promotional items, gift cards. Hyundai Motors. A lot of these companies, they pass it off to someone who doesn't necessarily know the rules, and a PR firm, a media company might take some liberties that they really shouldn't have. But the interesting area now is broadening out more into different types of social media. The stuff that's popular now that the government really hasn't gotten around to issuing rules about. So one of the more recent cases I talked about was Nutrisystem, was recently put to task for pinning customer testimonials on Pinterest without including the standard language that you might normally see in an ad that says these results aren't typical. That's the sort of boilerplate images you might see in an ad in any other context wasn't in the pin, and the body that heard this dispute said that's not good enough. You need to include that information in the pin itself.
So would you say when it comes to those sort of gray areas where it hasn't been determined yet, it's probably best to err on the side of caution and include the typical things you would with other media forms?
I think Amanda's a lawyer.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
That's the standard answer you'll hear from any lawyer, yeah. That's play it safe is definitely the bottom line.
What's an example, guys, of just a heinous mistake that you've seen made by a company as it relates to social media? Gordon, your eyes are glowing.
I'm trying to think of a good example that's really heinous. I mean, companies are getting involved in promoting their products using Facebook and Twitter and these kinds of things, and using references to other users. You may have a friend who likes a product, and next thing you know, that product is saying to your friends, hey, Amanda liked this product and so will you. That's a pretty big one.
Yeah, that bothers me.
Well, when you talk about heinous mistakes, you can't fail to include the Chrysler F-bomb guy. That's an example from my hometown of Detroit, where a PR employee for a PR company hired by Detroit was stuck in traffic, decided to tweet about it, decided to complain about it, and use some profanity talking about the city of Detroit, not realizing he was logged into Chrysler's account and not his own personal account.
That's not heinous, that's just funny.
It wasn't for Chrysler. but they dealt with it. There have been more examples since. KitchenAid was one we talked about on our panel that our panel mate Kyle Durant mentioned, that one of their employees tweeted out something about President Obama and his grandmother during the presidential debate, just really crossing all sorts of lines that shouldn't be crossed. And again, forgot he was logged into the official account. That's happened to other companies as well.
Good news is it's job security for the PR folks.
Exactly.
So PR folks, use a different phone. It's not that hard.
What about this notion that, it's the internet and there's so much noise out there, I can just put this out there, no one's going to notice?
Take your chances and then give me a call.
That sort of thinking keeps us employed.
So now we're going to do the contrarian. Everything you should do online in order to hire Brian and Gordon.
In order to avoid having to hire us, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Any other points from your session today, or any notable questions that really stood out from the audience afterwards?
Well, one important question was, how do I prevent this from happening to me? And the bottom line answer is really have a social media policy. You're going to hear that from Gordon, from me, from anybody who practices social media related law. Sure. Is you lay this stuff out ahead of time, have a common set of expectations between employer and employee, agent and principal, and lay out, not only it's a good start, it's an okay start to just pull something down off the internet that somebody else has used, but you really need to tailor it to your own industry and your own business to make sure that the terms really apply to what your company's doing.
Okay. So that's a perfect segue then. If someone wants to employ you to help with those policies, where do they find you, Brian?
Well, my blog is at wassom.com, Wassom. I work for the firm Honigman Miller in Detroit, Michigan. So you can find me at Honigman, HONIGMAN.com as well.
All right. What about you, Gordon?
Well, I'm a solo lawyer, so my firm is me, and you can find me at Firemark.com.
Firemark.com in Los Angeles.
That's right.
So we will be bugging this one over here because Efren has no idea what I've been tweeting from the TechZulu account. Any parting thoughts, guys?
I think one tip for anybody who's getting into any of the new media space is that it is a new media, but the old rules still apply. So, and it's common sense. If it's not yours, ask permission before you use it, and be nice to people. Don't tell lies about them, those kinds of things. And that's how you stay out of trouble.
Yeah, the ethos of social media is, hey, this is all just laid back, talking to our friends, and really, especially from any sort of professional viewpoint, but even personal, think twice. That's not what it is. This isn't a water cooler conversation. This is on the internet for the entire world to see.
And it's amazing what sorts of things can blow up on the internet. So, social media law, folks, think about that. Thanks so much for joining us, Brian and Gordon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.